All right, all right, all right. Black Talk Platform family. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Dr. Deborah Jenkins, your host for Black Talk Platform, where we talk about everything having to do with the Black community and its uplift. And tonight, this show will be no less important or exciting than any of the ones in the past. But I am so happy to have with me tonight two movers and shakers in the grassroots organizing movement in the state of California. These two, I've met them through the process of watching the California's Reparations Task Force do their work under the leadership of none other than Camilla V. Moore, who is running for California State Senate today, beginning today, I believe. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. I'm right? Okay. We need everybody in California going out there to vote for this dynamic leader who did not think it robbery to give props to these two who are with me tonight. I have Miss Tiffany Quarles, who is the secretary of NAASD, and Mr. Chris, I'm about to mess up his name because y'all know I do that all the time, Lodgson. Okay, I got it. From CJEC. They're going to talk about their organizations as I bring them on, but open up your mics and say hello to the Black Talk family, everybody.
Hey, family. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Dr. Jenkins.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy and excited to have you both. And it's for a myriad of reasons. Certainly, I love to follow good leaders. And so I believe Miss Moore is one of those good leaders. And so when she said that these two, specifically because you all represent organizations, but when she said that Tiffany Quarles and Chris Lodgson have been instrumental in getting the information out about about AB 3121, about the California Reparations Task Force, I knew I needed more than a quote from you. I knew I needed to meet you and present you through to the rest of the nation and beyond because of the great work you're doing. People applauded and love the fact that President Obama was a community organizer who ended up going from community organizer to president of the United States. I believe in so many ways from the bottom of my heart that the work that you two are credited with doing and your organizations will be what our entire Black community needs throughout the country. And I'm so happy to meet both of you. Tiffany, tell us a little bit about yourself. And then Chris, after she's done that, could you do the same, please? You're muted. You're muted.
Still muted. I can go, and then Tiffany, maybe you want to follow up.
Yeah.
And talk about your amazing self, Tiffany, because Tiffany is super awesome. So I am Chris Lodgson. I am one of the lead organizers for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, which is a grassroots coalition of California-based organizations that do reparations and reparative justice. That's what we were born for, and that's what we do. We work on California reparations. We were a part of the people who helped get the California reparations bill written in the first place, but we were a part of California reparations work before that. We actually worked on a couple of California resolutions at the state level before there was a California reparations bill. We worked to help get the California reparations bill written and rewritten and then passed and into law. And then we helped get people selected to the California Reparations Commission. And then we helped what we're doing now, which is do community outreach for California reparations. And I'll do a quick plug to start here. In that same spirit, on Juneteenth weekend, which is about a week or so away, we're going to have one of our community reparations listening sessions in Los Angeles, both June 18th and June 19th. And we're going to have a bunch of great activities that week. It's in that weekend. It's in LA. It's in Leimert Park also. And we do a bunch of that kind of work now to make sure Black folks know about California reparations and also participate in creating what California does for reparations. I got my organizing start on the East Coast. I'm from New York. I was born in Manhattan, Bellevue, raised in Manhattan and Brooklyn. I've been in California for about 7 or 8 years. I got my organizing start back in 2008, 2009, organizing inside of homeless shelters on the east side of Manhattan, and then up in East Harlem, and then up on Wards Island, which is up there in the East Harlem area. So I've been doing organizing now for probably about 12 years, 13 years or so, and have been very blessed and very fortunate to be a part of the new generation of reparationists, the new generations for reparations here in the state of California, and of course, all across the country, because it's going on everywhere.
Yes. So I will forgive you for being from Brooklyn, okay? Since I'm from the boogie down. No, this is a boogie down space right here. Throw up the X, man. No, we like y'all in Brooklyn too, from Brooklyn. But of course, I'm actually from Montgomery, Alabama. So none of the Bronx, Brooklyn ain't got nothing on Montgomery, where is the home of the civil rights movement. But nevertheless, no, Chris, that is so wonderful to know. Oh my goodness, you just generated a question, but I will hold back to allow Tiffany an opportunity to also introduce herself. And
thank you. I had some technical difficulties, so pardon that, but I'm happy to be back. And a little bit about me, I am a native of Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles in particular, 4th generation. Family migrated from Alabama, Texas, Louisiana back in the 40s. So we've been out here for a while. I'm a filmmaker. Before I was doing any work on reparation, that was my main focus. I wasn't thinking about anything else but breaking in as a producer. I have no organizing experience except for this. Like, I never, well, I take that back. I did do some activism when I was in college, but I'm talking just like professional, real life activism or organizing. I really didn't do it until I got involved with this, and I was sort of like sucked into it. It happened fast before I could even think about it. I just saw the call to action and I got involved, and Chris was the first person I reached out to. And, he has been sort of like someone I've leaned on a lot, because ask him, like in the beginning, I called him like 3 times every day. Wow. I didn't know what I was doing, right? It was something I had to learn as I went along. And so here we are 3 years later, and I've seen just tremendous growth, and, I'm on the ride of my life. So I'm happy to be doing something I feel like that is very meaningful, and I believe is helping people. So my life has just changed completely because of this whole reparations movement.
Wow. Let me tell you, I shared with Chris and Tiffany audience that, and if I call him my nephew because his mom and I have been friends for so long. He is such a dynamic young person. I don't know all the generations, but certainly you guys may be a little bit older than him. I'm not sure, but here is my mantra, and those who know me well know this to be true. And I said this to both Chris and Tiffany, that I feel that largely, and I might get somebody in the chat telling me I'm wrong, and that's okay, but I'm talking about my own feeling. I feel that largely the baby boomers did not prepare in open spaces for Generation X, of which I am a part. And I feel it's my duty, whenever I can, open a space for dynamic people like these 2 young people. And it's so important, because what I heard Chris say, and this was the question that was generated from your introduction, Chris, is that you all as organizers, your organizations, took part in writing the legislation that is now the talk of the nation as it relates to reparations. That's more than a sneeze. That is power. And that's why I thought I needed you all on this platform. I needed to get more than a quote from you to write in a blog. I needed the nation to see the faces of those who, are credited by the chairperson of the task force, Camilla V. Moore, and who has worked with then but now Secretary of State Dr.
Shirley
Weber.
Weber, yep.
Yes, to get this to a point where Blacks in California can be hopeful that there may be a monicum of restitution for what our ancestors have endured for so many generations, and that we continue to endure. Go on, speak to that, please. Hi, Chad.
Yeah.
We see you over here. You guys
What's up,
know
Chad? We see you in the comments.
Okay, yeah, we see you, man. And thank you for being here. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, shout out to everybody that's watching, listening, everybody that will watch, will listen. This is something that was really done by a lot of great people. Some of them are watching and listening now. And we're two people, a part of a larger group of a lot of amazing, what we call regular Black folks. Just regular Black folks who don't have any particular special experience, don't have any particular special, we didn't go to school for this. We just really saw things happening in our community and then just got involved and said, we want to do something about it. We want to do something with it. And when it came to reparations here in California, we started paying attention to what the state was doing for reparations back in like 2019. But we were out talking about reparations online, offline ourselves, and met each other through that kind of talking. And then we started saying, all right, how do we actually make reparations happen? How do we go from talking about it to actually doing it? And we started figuring out that if reparations is going to happen, it's going to come most likely through legislation. And so then the question becomes, well, how do we do legislation? Who does legislation? And then you have to learn about the legislation process, and then you have to learn about politicians, and then you have to start talking to politicians. But you have to learn how to talk to politicians and learn how to reach politicians and even get them to talk to you. And so we started learning all that stuff just on our own back in 2019. And as a part of that process, one thing we learned before there was a California reparations bill, something called AB 3121, which you referenced earlier. By the way, I would ask everybody to Google AB 3121 if you haven't done so before. If you haven't seen the California reparations bill itself, Google AB 3121 California, and that is the bill that created California's first in-the-nation reparations commission. And it was in, again, late 2019 and through 2020 that we said, and we figured out that there would be a reparations bill in California, and that we would have some ideas for that and some ways to make it better. We saw the bill called AB 3121, and we said, all right, how can we make this better? How can we make this specifically talk about reparations for Black folks who descend from U.S. slavery, specifically what we call lineage based? And we also said, okay, how can we make this reparations bill be something that is good for California, but also keeps the pressure on the federal government? And we had a whole bunch of other things that we wanted to do to make the bill better. So we started talking to Dr. Weber's office, Dr. Shirley Weber's office, now Secretary of State Shirley Weber's office, who's in a primary today, actually, by the way, here in California. So if you haven't voted yet, if you haven't got your ballot in yet, this is the voter ballot. Please, hope my address didn't show there. Please go vote, all right? And vote for who you think you might want to vote for. Dr. Weber's office at that time, Assemblymember Weber, was very open to conversations, very open to working to make the bill better. And we had people on our team who sat down and wrote changes and updates and improvements to AB 3121, the California reparations bill, specifically the language that talks about African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. That language wasn't there at first. There wasn't a specificity directive or specificity targeting in the legislation at first. Also, what wasn't there was something saying, hey, just because California is doing this doesn't mean that the federal government is off the hook.
Right.
And so we had people on our team write that language in there too. I think it's the last section of the bill. So that's a lot of what we did, and then we worked to get the bill passed, as I said. And Tiffany was a huge fundamental part of that. I want to give a shout out here before I shut up here to my good brother Marcus Champion, who is in LA with Tiffany, works with Tiffany directly, and Marcus is the author of that language, that specificity language in AB 3121, and it was just about us. That we didn't know how to write legislation. We didn't know how to look at a bill and update it and use red lines to take stuff out and then put blue lines in and put blue text in so that the legislators know what you're adding and what you're taking away. We never went through a process where, like, what the ideas that we have to submit them to the legislators, and then they have to submit them to the legislative council. We never even heard of what like a legislative council was. So it was a learning experience, and we have learned a great deal since then.
I mean, Tiffany, let me jump in there real quick. I think that process is one that's often overlooked in the organizing arena. At least, I mean, I'm here in New York, and it is definitely overlooked a lot. I can say that an organization that I co-founded with 4 other dynamic women, clergy women, here in New York, after George Floyd's murder, we've always had, you're from New York, there's always been tension in the Black community and the NYPD. And we just felt that we speak differently than males. And so we call ourselves Daughters for Justice. We were able to get audience with the then Commissioner, NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea, and several of his deputies and his chiefs in strategic areas of the NYPD to also work around helping them develop the plan ordered by Governor Cuomo at the time for all law enforcement jurisdictions that was due to him last year, April. We were instrumental in the listening sessions, but we did not author any part of the police reform. Our footprint is in there. We can see ourselves in there, but we did not do what you said you all and Marcus Champion did. And as much as we love to pat ourselves on the back for our part in that, we did not go that far. And I think you all, Tiffany, can speak a little bit more about, even though this was not your background, you've been doing this for about 3 years, you relied heavily on Chris's knowledge and others around both of you. Neither of you had done this professionally, but you learned in such a way. That's why I think I need you all to tell us, how do you get to the point where you're able to offer language that is more equitable to our cause, to legislators? Tiffany, can you speak to that?
Sure. So a huge part is a political education, right? Like we, rely on the works of Dr. Sandy Darity. I mean, he's like the foremost expert on reparations. So he was sort of like our guiding light on lineage and who should be eligible and why. So just having that information was valuable, because when we met with legislators, we were able to communicate that and look like we know what we were talking about. So, having the knowledge is number one. And number two, building relationships. Like we just would sit down with our elected officials and explain our case, and they people want to work with you when they like you, right?
Yeah.
And so, we have a very strong team of polished professionals. We all have just so many gifts and talents in our group, and it's just like everyone has it's like a puzzle. Everyone brings their piece to the table, and it just seems like it, that plays a huge role in our success of the people we work with. And so when we meet with elected officials, they see us as a source of information. Like, we bring solutions. We don't talk about the problem, we bring the solutions. And so that, to me, played a huge role in why Dr. Weber picked up our language, because we knew what we were talking about based on the education we received. And I would implore those people who are watching, who are in other states, take what you've learned. We all are on social media. We all know the talking points. other people don't. So you have a weapon right there, that you have something groundbreaking, something that no one else is doing, and that'll help you when you do sit down with your legislature. So that's to me was a huge, that made a difference right there.
And I think that's great. I mean, I try to think about the way politics work here in New York, and you all are big old LA. You all are the largest state, I believe, in the country. And for you to have gotten the audience with these powerful politicians in your state, and I mean, don't get me wrong, that happens in other places. It does happen in other places. But California, California is thought of as a liberal state for other reasons. I don't think anything is liberal about giving descendants of enslaved people in the United States. I don't think that's a liberal thing. I think that is a right thing. But the fact is that you had enough right-thinking politicians to listen to you. And I love the fact, Tiffany, that you said you all tapped into Dr. Darity and his work. You were good students of groundbreaking work that has been done, and were able to go to another scholar and have her hear you and say, oh, these people, they know what they're talking about. Come on in. And I think we operate under emotion so often, we forget that basic level of education to move our points forward. Chris, what do you say?
Yeah, I say that's right. And I want to reinforce something that Tiffany said and connect it to your question, because Tiffany talked about and said that we built relationships, and building relationships is a way to build power. So what we want to do something, we want to change something, we want something to happen. And in order to do that, we have to have the power to make that happen. And you have to build that power though. And so power comes in many different forms. And one of those forms is relationships. My good brother Chad just put it up in there.
Thank you, Chad, because I'm trying to keep up.
Power is relationships. But relationships take time to build. And the word build is the word, right? Nothing is right. Like building implies you take time to do it. You have to work on it. You have to cultivate it, right? If you want to grow a plant or for something, right? You have to plant the seed, and you have to water it, and you have to feed it with the sunlight, right? And then you have to watch it, but you have to nurture it, right? You have to protect it. That's a way to think about how we started to put ourselves in a position to get what we wanted first done, and then protect what we got done, right? The building relationships is how we were able to actually first get an audience with some of the legislators, and then make that audience actually do what we wanted done. And there are different ways to do it. But one thing that I would, and we can have a whole conversation about that. I'm happy to talk more about that. But one or two things I want to make sure that the audience is clear, especially y'all out there who are looking at doing something similar in different states, or you got a reparations commission going on in your city, or your city's talking about it, or you want to do something at the state level, or you want to work on making the federal government do reparations, because that's ultimately where the bill goes. Two things to keep in mind: one, relationships equal power, and two, take the example from me and Tiffany. You don't have to be no professional. You are enough. You are enough. You don't have to have no years of experience. Keep in mind, these politicians actually work for you. You actually pay them. They get paid from you. So it is in your power. It is in your ability to actually make the change you want to see happen. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to call up your legislator. Talk to them. And as a matter of fact, the sooner you start that, the better, because relationships equal power, and relationships have to be built over time. And that's partly how we were able to be successful in a lot of the work that we did here in California, and also how we continue to be successful on other things that we're working on, because relationships are built up. So once you do one thing and it's successful, then that sets you up to do something else with those same legislators, and even more legislators want to work with you because they see the success. So relationships are power. Start building relationships now.
And the second tip he gave was that you are enough. So don't believe that what you've done is insignificant to the fight that's before you. You can do it. But I think, can I add to that, Chris, by saying don't try to do it alone, because there are other people out here thinking in the same way.
Oh yeah. One thing yeah. So let's talk more about power. So relationships are a form of power, but people are another form of power. People. And the first thing that we did actually was find other people. Found Tiffany. Tiffany found us. Found me. I found her. We found other people. That's probably the first thing you want to do after you learn about what you want to do. While you're doing that, find other people that agree with you or that want to do the same thing that you want to do. People are a form of power. And one thing we always recommend, especially when you're doing advocacy work. So when you're going and advocating to legislators, you have an issue, you want something done, you go into the legislator's office and you advocate for that. Right. One thing we always say is, don't go in there alone. Okay. Never go in there alone. Okay? Even if you got to bring, right, that's one recommendation that we have. And there's been very rare occasions where I've broken that rule. Nothing is perfect, but 99.9% of the time, I never will go into a legislator's office and talk to them alone. I never will advocate alone.
Why
because
is that?
people equals power also. Gotcha. And if you want the legislator to listen, these legislators are hearing from all kinds of groups all the time. There's all kind of competition for the legislators' time and attention and action. And a lot of the people and groups that are going in there to talk to these legislators are with a lot of people and a lot of different people and a lot of different organizations. So to make yourself and put yourself in the position to be most successful, you want to make sure that one, you're not alone, and that you bring and have as many people supporting what you're doing as possible, and that you're organized. And that's that's another kind of power too.
I love it. I love it. I mean, I think a lot of times it doesn't sound like there's much ego going on here, which I think can kill any movement, right? And I love this harmony that I'm seeing between your two organizations, but it's just organizations separated by titles, but you all work together. And somebody put over here, Chad. Chad is our resident scribe tonight. I don't know him, but I'm appreciative of him. He says, you all roll deep into meetings, and that says a lot. That is the power. Tiffany, let me get you a little bit more into this conversation, because I'm loving you, Chris. You are just so passionate and natural. I love it. We want to hear some of that passion from you as well. So you're on. Unmute so we can hear your voice some more.
Sure. So, just to kind of piggyback, off of what Chris has been saying, I'm a believer. So I rely on prayer. I mean, that, I feel like God is with us. I say that all the time, that I believe he brought us together and he is the power behind us, because we got into rooms that I can't explain. I have no connections with people who we've met with, but I always had faith, and just believing and walking by faith and trusting that, we will get in front of who we need to get in front of. And also that we, the person with the favor that God has given us will lead to them wanting to work with us and to, grant our requests. I believe that has been a huge reason why we've been successful, just leaning on God, leaning on prayer, and just trusting. And, we've had hiccups along the way. Like you talked about harmony. Well, when we first got started, that wasn't always the case. We had people, we had to go through several people to get the perfect mix we have now. Right. And, it took a while to get there, but we did, because we kept going. And so endurance, faith, and trust is what you need to be a success. So I just wanted to add that portion because I feel like it's left out a lot when we're having these conversations. I don't give myself credit. You know, I feel like I'm just a vessel. So I just wanted to add that perspective.
No, I love that. Look, I could sit up here on a soapbox about my faith also. And I keep saying to people in our Twitter world that I'm not here to fight with my people. I'm not, because see, I understand from a different level. I'm not. Look, you two can have a fight, but I'm not going to get involved with it because I understand that our enemy is not each other, and our faith, whatever it is, and I am able to respect other people's faith perspective, but mine is in the Most High God, and I know that we can't do the work that we do as faithful people without believing that it's bigger than us. It's not. I like to say sometimes that I know people don't like to see me coming because I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I'm always on a soapbox about my passion, the issues that I'm passionate about. And I shared with Chris, I don't think I shared with you, Tiffany, that I've been doing redress work for the longest, but it's been centered in criminal justice reform. I may have said that to both of you. But what I realized, and I'm going to be very, very candid, with the election of the current president, Joseph Biden, I realized very quickly, because we went through 4 years of whatever you want to call that before him, what I realized, and that was a game-changing, eye-opening experience too, those previous 4 years, right? But what I realized in the run up to his election were so many promises. It was almost like Santa Claus. Black people, you want a car? Okay, you get in the car, you get in the car. Everybody's getting a car. And then now that he's there, having 3 branches of government, right? No, I'm sorry. Yeah. No.
Yep, you're right.
Yes, the three branches of government where legislation is made. Promises have been broken. And the Congressional Black Caucus is at fault, but that's a whole nother show, right? For allowing the promises to be broken. And so what I realized is that I can continue to advocate for every brother who is behind bars or every sister who is behind bars, for them to come out, for me to use my workforce development background to get them back up on their feet. But until this nation addresses the raping, and I mean raping, not a physical rape, but the stripping us of our humanity through the enslavement of our ancestors, we would never be in a position to gain that power, a power that is sustainable, equity, not equality, that we deserve as a people. And so that's how I got involved on a greater level for the whole reparations movement. And if it's just for the understanding of those who don't understand why we fight so hard for reparations, it's so basic. It's human rights. Because the truth is, the great work that you all are doing in California around AB 3121, whatever the final decision is, guess what? It will still be lacking because we can never get back what was done to our ancestors. And I love Dr. Joy DeGrew's work on post-traumatic slave syndrome. And if we don't tap into that and recognize this intergenerational trauma that we are living on a daily basis, we won't understand as Black people why there are Chris's and why there are Tiffany's and why there are Chads and Marcus's and everybody fighting so hard to make what they endured a little more palatable. And that's all it's going to be, you know. So I appreciate your fight, and I appreciate you bringing the faith into it. I can just see you in meetings now. We ain't gonna forget about God now. Y'all gotta acknowledge God in this space, right, Tiffany? And I think that's always a good thing, because we will go in different directions without looking to our faith, whatever that may be. For me, it is God, the Most High God. Go ahead. Oh, you can open your mic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like, you know, a lot of people, I'm sorry if there's any background noise, excuse that.
It's okay.
But I would say, you know, a lot of people don't see that portion. They just see the results, and they don't see the behind the scenes of what we go through in terms of just, you know, the ups and downs, and that is what has gotten me through, just faith. There's been times where I just felt like I don't think we're gonna make it. But God always just came through, and I'm ready to see this whole thing through. I believe we are victorious to the very end. And, it is just an amazing feeling to be alive at this time, and one thing you said earlier about hope, like people are getting their hope back. And that to me just, makes this whole thing worth it. That people feel like, what, maybe this is going to happen. Because when we first got started, we were seen as crazy. Wow. People say, this will never happen. We ain't getting nothing. Everybody, what makes you different from all the other people who tried? But, we never paid attention to that. And now you're seeing the results. So now that people are seeing like, oh man, maybe this will happen. I'm seeing a turnaround on social media where people are getting more engaged. Like what we're doing is making people want to get involved. So it's bigger than us, it is bigger than us. And I do believe, like I said, God is in this and there's a purpose here. And, I'm just thankful to be able to do this.
I'm thankful for you too. I really, really am. And even if that means for me, as for my part, where there are other cities and states considering reparations, I'm so happy to plug them into you all, because one thing, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I think a lot of people sit down at tables and never really see what else is going on. You all are, so to speak, the North Star for grassroots organizing, you and your organizations. And I am just so pleased with the work that you all are doing. Can we shift now to New York and New Jersey that's coming up behind you? We're trying to pull a little steam up too. I feel like what you all are doing, and of course the states are different, but I think there should be some blueprinting that's overlapping in these states. Talk to me a little bit, Chris, about the space you and I were in. Tiffany, I don't know if I saw you there, but I know you are very well aware of the space yesterday, I believe, that we were in with one of the leaders in the reparations movement here in New York City, in New York State.
Yeah, I've been following what's going on in New York, and I'm in constant conversation with Kimberly Davis, who's out of Long Island. She's been, coming to me, asking me for advice about what happened here in California. So we're all, a team, whether we're in New York, whether we're in Chicago, we have a whole network of reparations activists who we work with. So I'm watching New York very closely, and I told them if you need me in any way, just let me know. So we are, like I said, we are in this together. It's not just about California, it's about all of the freedmen people. So if I can help New York, Chicago, I will. But ultimately the goal is federal, but I'm happy to see it happening in other states as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Tiffany's 100% right, as always. This is, one thing that you'll know, or you'll realize really quickly if you are on social media in like reparations Twitter or reparations Instagram or reparations everywhere on social media, you'll realize that, and this is a feature, I think, a function of how we organize in the 21st century now, and some of the advantages we have for organizing in the 21st century that were not available to our people who came before us. Mm-hmm. We can talk every day, and I mean, look, you in the Bronx right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm in Sacramento, California. Tiffany is in LA, and we talking right now about reparations and about our work, and we connecting and building with each other while other people are watching at the same time from all other kinds of places, and while other people who not here right now gonna watch later and listen later. So this is an advantage and a way of organizing in the 21st century that is a big help to the kind of work that goes on across different states. Yeah. So what we're doing here in California is almost immediately able to be seen and heard by the folks from all different other states, including the folks in New York. You asked specifically about the spaces on Twitter, the Twitter Spaces broadcast that happened it was actually yesterday. I was gonna say last night, but it was actually yesterday morning, where the New York family were putting out a call to action and actually online organizing. But they were doing two things. They were doing three things really, or more, but three big things they were doing. One, they were bringing people together, so they were organizing online. They were educating. Yep. In that organizing space, and then they were mobilizing. They were mobilizing those people to do something. They had a call to action, and that call to action was to call senators, call legislators, call the governor's office in New York to stop the New York reparations bill that is very badly written. Right. And that's something that, and so in that spaces, you had people from New York. I heard a bunch of people from New York come up to the stage and talk about where they was from the Bronx to Brooklyn, et cetera, et cetera. And then you had people from outside of California, outside of New York, come up to the stage and be a part of that conversation and be a part of that mobilization. Yeah. And then you have people from all other kind of places. And we'll know soon if we were successful or not. I think the chances are high that we are successful.
We are. Let's play this.
I think the chances are very, very high. Okay, I don't want to jump ahead of the New York family here, but let me just I think the chances are very high that we were successful yesterday in stopping a very badly written New York reparations bill. But think about that. Think about how you can kind of what they call, like in the military, force multiply, right? Like your group in New York may be 10 people, but you get on social media and you got 5 people who y'all know in California, who know another 5 people, who know another 5 people, and then you got people in Texas and people in Florida, people in Jersey, people in Connecticut. So now your 10 people in New York is now 50 people, 100 people, 150, 200 people. Right. And now it's 200 calls going in. It's 200 emails going in. It's 200 tweets going out. You've force multiplied yourself. And this is a feature of 21st century organizing. I don't want to give the game away.
I was going to say, can I just add? Sure. When we needed people to call the California state legislature for whatever reason, we relied heavily on social media. We had people from around the nation calling. Like, we couldn't have probably made the impact we have without supporters on social media. And it's so funny, it's like a family now, and we see the bonds getting stronger and more people, are getting involved because of Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. And, like I said, when we put our calls to action out, we have people from everywhere calling, emailing, and because we don't really have the numbers here in California, we rely on other reparations advocates who are on social media to help us, like when we do have a call to action. So Chris is right. This is the wave of this is now. It's not the future. This is now. This is how organizing is. And, I think it's so amazing just to be able to do this work. Because I only met Chris like once in person, and we've been working together for like 3 years.
Isn't that weird? I feel like that's so weird. I've only met Tiffany once in real life. Once.
No. But that's the power. That's the power of, first, I want to say, there has to be a commitment to the mission. We can have differences, and that's what you were speaking to about your beginnings of the cross organizational work, Tiffany. We can have differences, but to the mission, we must all remain committed, and that will supersede and overshadow any differences if we stay committed to the mission, I believe. And I think the work that you've done, and we, as surely as there are 2 brains in a space, there will be differences, but we can always agree around the mission. And the mission is to push the AB 3121 forward to the point where now it's in a whole task force that is trying to determine the best way to deliver reparations to descendants of enslaved people in the United States. You all did that. So you're proof of concept, right? And what you're telling us is that can be duplicated over and over again. I think I had just put up something. Oh, Chad had said, big facts, force multiplication. I can tell you there were times when people would say, call call this congressman or call that senator or what have you. And I'm like, I'm not in that state, so I can't call. No. See, I think social media has gotten it to the point where they can't even just easily manage asking you, well, what district are you in? They're just fielding the calls at this point. And I think that's an advantage to grassroots organizing, where it wasn't before. They'd have a little sheet where they say, oh, she lives over on Smythe Street or ABC Street or in his district or in her district. Now they're just fielding so many calls that it is getting to the attention of the elected official. And that's the ultimate goal, to get our issues before them. Am I correct in that?
Well, can I say something? I saw a question in the chat that said, is meeting with your elected officials more effective than protests? And I feel like there's a time and place for both. And we as a people have traditionally relied on the protests. Mm-hmm. Because when we first start this work, you know, we met with a legislative director, a Black legislative director, and he said, we don't see Black people in Sacramento, you know, we don't see lobbying groups advocating on behalf of African Americans. So I feel like this is a part we've been missing in terms of our activism is political advocacy.
Yeah.
So it's super important that we, you know, get involved with the process. Like you said, that they're getting calls, they're surprised because they usually aren't used to seeing us in the room. So I feel like this newer generation, you know, is shocking people, it's scaring people, but it is effective.
It is. And thank you, Rodney. Rodney is a regular participant here. So can I answer your question too? And we might have to have a sidebar about that. In terms of protests, I think they're good. But if you go back, I'm a political scientist by background, right? Not the spiritual stuff, but the academic training in other areas. And what I find is that if protests don't lead to tangible change, then what we've done is only soothe our emotions in a public space. And we need more than that. We're at a critical point in our living, you know, and the time is now to force change, as Chad alluded to before. And so I think protests are fine, but I'm going to tell you why I stopped doing it. I was protester ABC. Had my children out there when they were really little. My oldest is 22, about to be 23. My other is 18. So they've been doing this type of street activism for many years, for most of their lives, right? What stopped me from doing it? My mom got really ill at the beginning of the pandemic. So I could not be out on the streets anymore. So I turned to what? Digital activism, which is what we do now. And I bring people like the two of you on to amplify your voices across the nation and beyond, so that people will have access to great people doing great work in their communities and showing them how they can duplicate your efforts in their spaces without a lot of heavy lift. You all are giving us this information free. We can go in another space where I don't mean spaces from Twitter, but in another space and a whole nother environment, and people are charging for what you all are giving us freely, because you all are doing this out of passion. However, I do believe in people getting paid. So there are those times when you all need to get paid. Chris and Tiffany, you need to get paid. And I think that our community, the Black community, needs to tap back into its philanthropic arm. We have sustained churches. We have sustained communities by pooling our monies. Tiffany is very biblical. That you make sure that nobody is in need. How do you make sure that nobody is in need? We pool our resources so that everybody can have some food from the table and they're not begging bread from a dog, right? So this is not something new to us. It is something that we have to get back to in order to ensure the sustainability of our community. And I believe when we bring people like the two of you onto a platform and say, I'm giving you your flowers. I know you may be a dad and your children may be getting ready to celebrate you for Father's Day, but I'm talking about from the activist community. I am applauding the work that you all and your colleagues do, because what you all are doing in California with the California Reparations Task Force, and what you all continue to do in terms of education is invaluable to us all. And there's no need New York, no need New Jersey, and I saw other places, Chicago, somebody even put in here Oregon, I believe, for us to reinvent the wheel. Chris, before you come back, can I just share what on the tail of what you were saying? So Chris was talking about the space that he was in, the call to action space that was held yesterday by one of New York's leading reparationists. What's his name? Divine. What's his last name?
Divine Brooklyn.
Divine Prince.
Divine Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just want to give him his shout out too. And I've not met him. I wonder will we be able to actually meet in the physical being. But he did a call to action, several hours, right, Chris? His space yesterday. I came in towards the end to let him know that I was going to take up the call to action. I'm going to reach out to my senator and all of that stuff too, because we have to be about it. We can't just talk about it, right? So just before the show, I shared with Chris and Tiffany that actually the state side of the bill, only the assembly bill has passed in the New York legislature. So the Senate also has to pass the sister bill in order for it to move forward and become a law, get to the governor's desk for her to sign. That's not happening on the state side. So let's give him his kudos for calling together that call to action at a critical point where that bill got stuck in committee. And I'm just so happy. I have to brag about my state senator, Jamal Bailey, who is one of the co-sponsors. And he spoke to the lead sponsor, Senator Jabari, last name? Brisport. I'm horrible with names.
No worries, I got you.
Sorry. But Senator Brisport, he spoke with him and he said that there needs to be more. This bill is not ready to pass and we need to look at it more. And here's the best part, people. Here's the best part. Don't miss this part. He said we need other voices at the table. That's the divines of the world. That's the hopefully Dr. Debs of the world. You know, we need people who are doing the work. They're out here raising awareness in ways that are not happening, even on a national level, apart from what's happening in California. So we live to see another day before any movement is made. So this is a critical time for New York, and we hope the same happens in New Jersey. Go on, give us your feedback, because Chris is beaming over here.
I want to tie it to what we've been saying.
Yeah.
Look at the power of people. So people equals power too.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Look at what regular Black folks, regular people were able to accomplish by coming together and doing something together. Look what you were able to stop a bad reparations law from becoming law. Yeah. That means if you can do that, that means you have the power to get a good reparations law passed.
Right.
It takes the same amount of power to do both. And I just want to just give a big shout out once again to everybody in New York, you too, Dr. Deborah, and the Divine Prince, Tony Blunt, Annette, Roland, the whole New York family, everybody who I'm not Kim, I can't forget Kim. Big love to Kim, Dr. Reverend Phyllis Coachman, the whole team out there in New York, and everybody else, as Divine says, blame it on my head, not my heart. Blame it on my head, not my heart.
Yes.
The work that was put in to stop a bad reparations bill from becoming law it's just so exciting to see what people are capable of, and it's just exactly what we've been talking about. So we've been talking about what we are able to do here in California. Look at what folks in New York, including yourself, were able to do in New York just in the last 24 hours. And you know, now there were calls to actions going out since last week, I believe, to stop the assembly version of that bill. And the assembly folks, what we found out was a lot of the folks who voted for that in the assembly, or a lot of the assembly members, one, didn't know that the bill was even moving forward. They didn't know what was in the bill. They hadn't read it. They were just sort of relying on and trusting their other members. And there was also advocacy going on to New York Assembly members. There was meetings going on with New York Assembly members last week, the week before last, over the past few months. Over this weekend, I can tell you right now, there was meetings with legislators going on, and there was also what you might call the online advocacy, the online protesting, the online mobilization going on over the last several days, and obviously last week also. But this is just an example of what we are capable of. And again, this is regular Black folks. This ain't people with, we didn't study this. Most of us, we just said, all right, we're going to just do something. We just going to do it. And we're going to learn how to do it as we go. And this is what we are 100% capable of. So just a big shout out. Again, I want to. This is huge news.
Yeah.
So, exciting, groundbreaking, and the good news we needed for today. We all were on pins and needles, but I never gave up. And so it's, now it's now the bill can be rewritten the way it should be. So that, super exciting. New York is the largest state in the union, or the second largest in terms of population. Yeah. So that's another watershed movement, moment for the reparations movement.
Fourth. So there's the top 5 states with Black population in it. New York and California are in that top 5.
Yeah.
So this is big.
This is really big. And listen, you both just laid out the plan, how we can all do and make it move forward. I'm not in Jersey, but it's close enough for me to help those brothers and sisters over there do the same thing. So Chris has said to me when I shared this with him and Tiffany before the show started, that means that we have about 6 months to try to help to get to that table. Right? We need to get to the table. We need the right people at the table. And I believe, I tell you, I don't, if he's watching, he already knows. He knows that I really pay attention, Senator Jamal Bailey. He has a great reputation, but he also understands these intricacies that we raised as concerns of ours. And he's at least willing to hear and work along with his colleague to get us to the table. So we have a few months to start thinking about how Chris and Tiffany and Marcus and the rest wrote legislation that makes the bill stronger and more equitable. I'm not about this equality stuff, guys, because if you look at the school systems, and Rodney's always talking about that, we need reparations, educational reparations. The school systems have never done what Brown versus Board of Education was intended to do, nor the civil rights movement. So we're going to be real careful with our language and make sure we can get some of it in there that's appropriate. And I'm sure Divine and Tony and the rest have already been doing some of this work. We just all need to come together, not be splintered, and push those leaders into the mix. And because I look at the bill, there are some organizations that are in there, but a lot of organizations that are excluded in terms of the assembly bill. So there's a window of opportunity that we have, and we just have to go strong. And just like they organized us all in the nation to support their efforts, we're asking the same thing from California and the rest of the nation on behalf of New York and New Jersey.
Can I add something,
yes,
Dr.
Tiffany?
Jenkins? So with the 6 months, I'm also hoping that the New York team raises awareness in the community, like hold town halls, go to events. You have time now to get the support of the community, which we all know is there. Okay, so we just need to go out and get the people and let them know what's going on. So when you do start talking again with the legislators, you have the people's support and you have them behind you, and it just only adds to their willingness to make the changes that are needed. So I hope the New York team, I know it's going to be a long hot summer. However, now's the time to get out there, go to the Juneteenth festivals, go to the Black, all the different events in New York City and upstate New York, and just start talking to people and letting them know how they can get involved, even if it's just calling, emailing, following them on social media. All that makes a difference.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a perfect point to make, because I really do think, and I was saying that to Senator Bailey, there's an education, there's an awareness that needs to be raised around reparations, because you got Black people saying, I don't want no money. And it's not only about money, right? Although that has to be a huge part of the give for the reparations. We need to educate people. And I think, like you said, we need to start at the Juneteenth celebrations that are coming up. In fact, my assembly person, I'm a part of his um, program next week, and I will take that opportunity. And if he allows me, I will start putting together a list of people who want to come to listening sessions. And they don't have to be, this is the beauty of social media, right? They don't have to be led by me. We can bring one of you guys in, somebody from Brooklyn or wherever the movement is going, to do these educational pieces. And I think that's how we grow the support. And I heard Camilla Moore, and I know we're coming to the end. I could actually talk to you all for much
I know we
longer.
can keep going. I know, yeah.
I know, but I want to honor your time, your need to get to your families. And I know it's early there. It's about to be late here, but I'm so appreciative of your time.
We'll come back.
I heard Ms. Moore say, we don't want to rest on our laurels. We want to keep the momentum going. So may I ask each of you, how are you going to keep the same level of hope and interest in the people in California through to next year? It's a lot.
Well, I'll start by saying, we have a couple listening sessions coming up next week, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a big deal. I think that's going to be the first time a lot of people in the community will hear from us, even though we've been out there. But, this event is going to attract upwards of 100,000 people. So just being in the community and letting them know what's going on. And then they resume hearings in September, and they'll be in person and actually be in Los Angeles. So, that's one way, just to keep these people going to the hearings and keep getting small wins along the way. Because, small wins lead to a big win, and that keeps people motivated, keeps their hope up. And, we keep them informed on our social media. So just letting, when we get a win, we let people know, and that gives them hope and makes them want to keep going.
Absolutely. So I reposted what Chad had put in the chat earlier about, is this the event you were talking about that's going to be like 100,000 people?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
In Lamert Park, which is like the cultural center of Black Los Angeles. And like I said, we're expecting pretty much the whole community to be there. And so we're very fortunate to be able to, participate both days.
Awesome. Will you all still be in early voting at that time?
Actually, our primary's today. The last day.
This is not an early voting. This is the primary.
This is the primary today. And so we will find out who, either we're getting our mayor today if they get more than 50%, or we will be having a runoff soon. So I still need to vote. That's what I'll be doing once we wrap up here, because
so we are not going to keep you.
Same here. Yeah, she's running for states, for state senate district 28. So I'm gonna go out and make sure I cast my vote for Chair Moore.
Awesome. I just peeked into your mayor's race. Nobody seems to be. You all have the what is it? We just instituted it. Something ballot where you go through the levels. Like no one has the 50%, it seemed, in terms of the polling for mayor.
Right.
Ranked choice. Do you all have that for mayor out there?
Yeah. Well, if a person is to win tonight, they have to get over 50% of the vote. If they don't, it will be a runoff. And what I'm hearing, it looks like it may be a runoff between Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. We won't know until a couple of hours from now, but that's how it's looking. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like it's going to happen. So those are the two front runners. So Caruso may get more than 50. If he does, he will officially be our mayor. If not, we will be back at it and voting again in November.
Wow. The politics. And that's very interesting, because not interesting. We need to know our own politics, because New York is nothing like California, and California is nothing like New York. Because of the redistricting, we are our primaries for United States Congress has been pushed back to August. I don't know if that's the same in your state, but Congress, no, because that's today too. Reverend Summerfield is your reparations candidate out there, right? So he's running today. Had a lot of people running for a vacated seat, right? It's just, I'm going to be very.
Quite a bit of openings in the courts. with state assembly, state senate. So it's quite a bit of people running, and Reverend Somerville's not in my district, but I definitely support him.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Now this is my friend Rodney, and that's for you guys. That is for you all. He's down in
Thanks,
Florida.
Rodney.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. And he's always talking about educational reparations, and that's a whole part of it. They have the report, the preliminary draft report was released on the 1st, I believe, right? And it's out there, Rodney. If you want me to email it to you, I can, or I can just send you the link to where you can go and look at it. But that's why I brought these wonderful young people on tonight. I know they're like, we're not young. Yes, you're young. You're young enough,
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
I'm young.
You're young, right? They are young. I don't think I could be their mamas unless I was a fast girl. So I wasn't a fast girl, so I couldn't be their mama. But I'm really very proud of you and the work you're doing. You have a friend and a home at Black Talk Platform. Anytime you need to push out a message, all you got to do, you have my information. You can reach me easily. I want to be a part of any work, any heavy lift, via social media that I can do over here to help you all continue the momentum that you all have been working on for 3 years. I am so willing and happy to do it. And for all of your supporters who are watching tonight, and Brother Marcus, they've already shouted you out. But again, I say thank you for the language that you wrote into AB 3121, which is now a bigger part of the discussion. I'm just so proud of all of you. And like Chris said, Chad, you're trying to take over Chris's role here with the C, because I keep referring to you when I mean Chris, but I think we're all family here.
You definitely got to have Chad
brother.
Too.
Yeah, he'll have to come on next time.
I know you gotta get Chad on here.
We gotta get you.
Yeah,
you come next time.
Chad up here.
But yes, I want to give them the last word. So please think about your last words while I tee up my next week's show. Okay. Next week, don't get lazy, people. Come back next week. Another subject that has to be on the mind of every Black person is why our girls are going missing. And a week or two ago, a sister who's formed an organization here in New York, specifically in the Bronx, she held, along with another organization, she held a conference, a summit, to talk about our Black and Latino daughters who are just going missing. And families can't pay for Amber Alerts. Black families can't pay for Amber Alerts, so you don't really hear about it until small stories come up about our missing. I had posted on my social media a 13-year-old who went missing from on the 25th of May from Queens, and I keep looking every day. She has not been found. There's sex trafficking going on, but she will be my guest next week. I want you all to come back and listen to her give us some calls to actions, what we can do to help protect our young girls. You don't want to miss that show. But at this time, I'm going to thank all of you for tuning in and let both Chris and Tiffany have the last word tonight. And I'll see you all in the green room before we close out. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, on the night of Dr. King's assassination, he prophesied that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I believe we're here now. I believe this is the time. I believe that this is the result of years and years of prayers and us not giving up. And we're here, and I believe we are victorious. It may, we've been through a lot, as a people, but this is our moment. And I'm just amazed that I'm here to experience it. So I just wanted to say to the audience, keep the faith. Let's keep going, and we're going to get to that promised land. And this whole situation, I believe, is just turning around in our favor. So those are my final words. And I just want to thank you so much for having me on. It was an honor and pleasure to speak with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, you're going to make me follow that, Tiffany. I'm just going to do my regular organizing job here, which is to make sure that people know about our upcoming events at and for the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, and also NAASD LA, the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, Los Angeles, where Tiffany is one of the founding members and on the board and helps run that amazing organization. One of our coalition partners within CJEC. June 18th and June 19th in Leimert Park, as has been mentioned, Make sure you out there. If you're in the LA area, if you're in the Southern California area, I'm driving down from Sacramento, so you could be there too. So make sure you're there. And if you're out of the state, or if you can't make it for some reason, it's going to be live streamed also on YouTube at ETM Media Group on YouTube. So make sure you go to YouTube right now and subscribe to ETM Media Group for the live stream. Also, if you're in the Sacramento area, this Sunday, we actually going to have a rally at the state capitol. This Sunday, that is June 12th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the state capitol. We're going to be out there talking about reparations. So if you're in the Sacramento area, please pull up for that. And I think the last thing I'll say is that we did talk about the first reparations report that was mentioned more than once here today. It's about 500 pages long. I am doing a weekly reading of the reparations report chapter by chapter. We did chapter 1 yesterday. These readings will be on Twitter Spaces, so they'll be on my Twitter page at Chris Organized Sac on Twitter, or if you just follow CJEC Official, you'll see my stuff there too. So if you want to read along with us, or I get my reading is done by getting read to, like I get read to me, like Audible and stuff like that. So I'm going to be reading to you chapter by chapter, one chapter every single week over the next 12 weeks, all of the 500 pages of the California Reparations Commission report. They will also be recorded spaces too, so you can sort of download the audio and just listen to it wherever you are, whenever you want. And that is a way to keep the momentum going also for what's going on here in California as we lead up to the next California Reparations Commission hearings in September. As Tiffany mentioned, we don't have a date yet, but they will be in September. They will be live and virtual also, and they will be in Los Angeles. So that is my last words. Thank you. And thank you so much, Dr. Deborah. Thank you. You have been so amazing. I've been connecting with you and seeing your work online. It is a pleasure to meet you. Can't wait to meet you in person when I go back to New York. And thank you for all the support that you have been providing for the family like yourself in New York. Y'all had a big win yesterday. I'm gonna call it a win now. Y'all had a big win, and so we are thankful for you and thankful for your work. Please keep this platform going. Please keep doing what you're doing. You are having an impact. You are making an impact. Please keep it going. We need you, and we need more people like you.
Oh, thank you. I was trying to let you all have the last word, but I'm a Southern girl, and I must say thank you. Much obliged. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week. Oh, my.